A very fun and diverse meta we have in Disney Lorcana post Hiram Flavisham ban, and in today's video we will be looking at all of the best performing decks from the tournaments that took place this weekend. Make sure to give the video a like and check you're subscribed. A lot of my viewers think they're subscribed. You're probably not. A big shout out, as always, to Card Market, who sponsor the stream. Really interesting to see the best sellers of the week here to get a real idea of where the meta is heading. You can see a lot of evasive cards and particularly amethyst cards, but even this Moana here, obviously all is found, popularized by Dinkham Pham in Ruby Sapphire. I still don't think it's very good. Pete Space Pirate shows that a lot of people are willing to play Emerald Steel. That's pretty much the only Emerald Steel card that's new. And Tramp's still up there as well, which is quite nice to see. We haven't really seen much Amber Emerald, and I don't think there's much in this video. But yeah, I think Half Shark's up there. I think Mushu's a card that's worth exploring a little bit. It had a very bad matchup into Sapphire Steel, but I think that the game's in a really good spot. We've got a 24-player tournament to start things off, and Thoth in the top four. I believe the top four split in this one, or at least we don't know the order of them. But Amber Ruby, but with a Maui Half Shark. Like, how can I not start with this one? Very, very spicy. We know that Amber Ruby traditionally relies on Mufasa, and it plays Rapunzel Mother Gothel for its card draw. That is still the case, but the Half Shark, the preferred direction. Obviously, you could play Ariel, you could play Robin Hood Sharpshooter. I wouldn't be too surprised if in the next set or next few sets we get some more support for this style of deck. I think Gaston is a really good card as well to pair with the Half Shark, because you can play Gaston on turn 3 and the Half Shark then on turn 4, which sounds pretty strong, I have to say. There's also Chip and Dale here. During your turn, whenever a card is put into your Inkwell, you may return a character card from your discard to your hand. Sort of like pseudo card draw. Snow White also, whenever this character quests, you may return a character card from your discard. Hades does something similar. Also worth noting, the Raya and Gaston combo. You can use your Gaston to play Raya, Ink, ready Gaston, tap Gaston again. Really strong combo. You can do something similar with Sven. I really like Gaston in Amber Ruby. Gaston with Sven, Gaston with Raya in particular. Very, very strong. So this is a really cool deck. Be Prepared's in there as well. No Ariel in this one. There's not exactly any spectacular 5-cost songs to sing in this deck. So I think that does make some sense. But I think it's a really, really interesting take on Ruby Amber, and definitely one that people should explore with if you're looking to do something a bit fun with Ruby Amber. I can't imagine it's going to be the best deck in the world, but it definitely looks like a fun one. And it also performed well, so there you go. We've got a Diggy Diggy Hole deck up next in the top 4. This one is playing Doc, and Rapunzel's Tower, I think, is the one that really catches my eye here. I think it's a really good card in this style of deck. It's a location with 8 willpower. It doesn't gain you any lore, but it only costs 1 to move cards in there, and it gives them 3 extra willpower. The synergy then with Lilo is really good, because you can call back your Lilo and then move it into Rapunzel's Tower for 1. So you're basically paying 3 for a 1/5 character which quests for 2, and it comes in exerted. Very, very powerful combo. Piglet with extra willpower is also great. Lawrence with extra willpower. Like, I mean, everything can benefit from it, really. It's a very aggro heavy deck. The one thing I don't like about this deck is it's only playing 3 Storms. I think if you're playing a Cinderella Ballroom Sensation deck, you should be playing 4 copies of Storm Rage on. That's my personal opinion. Also not sure about the choice of Troubadour over Ursula Vanessa. Not even sure I like the sound of the Troubadour and Ursula Vanessa in this. I know that it allows you to have the Zeus. Actually, Ariel, 2 copies of Ariel is not something you see very often in these either. So it's definitely an interesting take with Penny and the Jafar. Definitely a unique build. I like quite a bit of it. The things I'm not so sure on is maybe the Troubadour, the Ariel, the Zeus, the Jafar. Like, I think against a Maui Half Shark deck, you might just have to try and go under them, maybe. Maybe you need the Zeus for it. It's not a deck I've played too much myself. I could see the Zeus and like a Vanessa, but maybe you're just supposed to try and outquest a shark and utilize the Pete in that matchup, right? Maybe like the Seven Dwarfs Mine could help as well. I think that's a good card, but I like it. It's a cool setup for sure, and a bit different. Joshua is on a Ruby Sapphire deck on Brawl, which is something we didn't see Dinkham Pham playing, by the way, which I'm not sure that's going to stand the test of time. but we'll have to wait and see. Sisu and Scar, so a bit of a split there. Only 2 Tamatoas. I think most people are playing more than that, but obviously it's an expensive card. Super Goof is a card that I think I can definitely recommend to Ruby Sapphire players. As an Amethyst player, a Super Goof that takes out my Chernobogs or Magic Broom feels very, very sad. So I really like the Super Goofs in these decks. I think it's very good against aggro players. And the other deck in the top 4 is a Amethyst Steel deck, and this one is on Rabbits and Zeus. There's been a lot of discourse in my comments recently about Rabbits and how I don't personally like Rabbits that much, but there is an exception. I think that Rabbits are very good in 2 styles of decks. I think one style of deck where Rabbit is good is where you play Be Prepared, because you can afford to have that sort of slower start because you clear the board. Also Sisu, right? Like basically pairing it with Ruby where you have that heavy control. And I think the other place where Rabbit is reasonable is when you have powerful 4-cost songs. And then along came Zeus is the most obvious, but also I think Bee King Undisputed, which is of course a Ruby card, is also decent. Because you play the Rabbit and it's quite slow the turn you play it, but it is drawing you a lot of cards, and then you sing Zeus, so you like gain that tempo back the next turn. So I think if I was to play Amethyst Steel this set, because it's not a deck I'm massively interested in, I think I would go down this route of Zeus and Rabbit. And I think if I wanted to play a Dock style of deck, I would be more interested in playing like the Diggy Hole. That's kind of where my thought process would be. Don't get me wrong, you can definitely play Dock in Amethyst Steel and have some success. I think that Rabbit Zeus is just very good because there's a lot of half sharks at the moment. There really, really is. The other things in this one to worth noting, no Cobras. They've gone for the White Rose instead, which I think is very reasonable. Only 2 Brooms. You guys know my opinions on that. No Maleficents. I think that you could definitely sneak in a couple of Maleficents still. I also don't really like playing Genie and Rabbit. I think these 4-cost uninkable cards, people tend to want to play a few too many. I kind of like just playing 3 of these. I think Rabbit is an exception because it draws you so many more. Like you just play 4 Rabbits if you're playing Rabbits. But you can definitely end up in some sticky spots where you have like these 4-cost uninkables in hand, and you can only play 1 a turn, right? Until you're at 8 ink, that's the first time you can start doing it. So they can make your hands a little bit awkward. Overall, looks like a solid build, though. My setup wouldn't be too dissimilar. The next tournament we're going to look at is a 30-player event in France, and the French are usually pretty good in my opinion. And this is a Ruby Amethyst deck. The first thing that catches my eye is the 1-drops. They get a specie thumbs up from me. You guys know me, I love my Amethyst 1-drops. I wouldn't leave home without all 12 of them in any Amethyst deck. That is definitely not a must, but that's my kind of guiding principle when building Amethyst decks. If you're ever cutting or inking some of these 1-drops, I think you have to think really, really carefully about it. I also like the reintroduction of Flynn Rider. I think Flynn Rider is significantly better now than it was in the Bell meta that we had post Hiram ban. Obviously, Bell singing Storm and Bell just countering your Flynn was very problematic, but I think Flynn's a good card that can give you some good coverage into Ruby Sapphire. Pegasus is in there for a bit of coverage into Diablo, but of course you've also got Brawls. 3 Crabs, 2 Sisu, Genie and Rabbit. Again, not so sure I like the Genie and Rabbit. I think you just pick one personally. I like heavy Tremaine count. 3 Medusas and 3 Tremaines is a lot though. No Elsa. 3 Friends. You probably want 4. Only 2 Libraries as well and only 3 B Preps. I like the start. Here's the problem, right? When you have all these 1-drops, it's really difficult to fit the top end. But I think 3 Medusa, 3 Tremaine, only 3 B Preps. Like that's not personally how I would go about it, but I like all of the cards in the deck. I'm just not so sure about the ratios. In third place, we have Sapphire and Amethyst, and Sapphire Amethyst is going to be a pretty popular deck here in the Sapphire. Sorry, I just got an email that caught my eye. Yeah, but Sapphire Amethyst is going to be a popular deck in this video, and I think it's really good. Obviously, you guys have been seeing my live streams probably where I'm playing Amber and Amethyst, and it does a similar thing. But this deck is very, very well positioned, I think. Diablo and Chernobogs, again, you could try and squeeze in more of those 1 costs, but you also have access to Bell in this deck, which can sing Friends, which can be a really good early tempo. Obviously, Porpsicle can heal up your cards as well and give you more board control. Scrooge McDuck is a great card to play on turn 2 because you can go Sail or Tipo on 2 and then the Scrooge on 3, sorry. I've really got distracted there. The McDuck Manor is very, very powerful. I think you could also look at Queen's Castle in this. I think like my biggest question really about these decks is how worth it is the Porpsicle, Bell, and Tamatoa package. It's definitely good, but I think there's an argument that you might just, play a flip-in some Magic Brooms instead, right? And then put some other top-end cards in. Finders Keeper is a very strong card as well. Like I say, I think Queen's Castle is worth checking out. And Genie is the card of choice in this one over Rabbits, which I think is fine. Does seem to lack a little bit of Diablo answers for my liking, but obviously you can Elsa on 4. Bell is also in there to potentially answer Diablo. This looks solid. No legendary Elsa. But yeah, I think this looks like a solid setup. And we've got Ruby Sapphire in second. This one is just the DKP list of all is found, no copies of Brawl, only one Super Goof. And the winner is a Amethyst Emerald deck, which I think is particularly well positioned. This one is not playing discard though, which is how I would personally go about it, but instead it's playing Clarabelle for some card draw. You've got this big Ursula, which is obviously a really good shift target onto Ursula Deceiver. Not playing the 3-cost Ursula, but playing goats and genies, snakes and rabbits. Elsa Kronk as a one-off as well. Cricky and Bell, and a Shere Khan as a one-off. Like Amethyst and Emerald just have lots of very, very good cards. Also Go-Go Tamago, not something you're seeing in all of these lists, but yeah, there's lots of really good cards available in Amethyst and also Emerald. So when you pair these decks together, you have so many options. And that was the winner. So into the next tournament, we have a 36-player tournament, which is the biggest so far at Shadow Series in Phoenix. And this is a LeFou deck because it's playing this LeFou card, which is during your turn, you may play this character for free if an opposing character was banished in a challenge. And this card's really interesting with Storm and Strength. It's kind of similar to Bell in a way, right? Like we saw the Bell card really pop off. It's like a card you can cheat out early. And I remember when this card got revealed, I was quite excited about it, but it's never really seen play. I do kind of like it. It's not as good as Bell because you can play Bell on 1, whereas this is not a card you can play until turn 2, but it's an interesting idea. Happy and Doc with the 7 Dwarfs Mine is a really good combo. A big weakness and I do think Doc is also good in Sapphire Steel. I mentioned Doc decks. I think this is a really, really solid deck, but a big weakness that these decks have is the 1-cost characters. So I think I'm usually a bit of a Robin Hood hater outside of a Whole New World decks, but here, like the 1-cost Robin Hood is fine because you don't really have many better options as a 1-cost character, right? Like if you play Robin Hood in Amethyst, for example, I would just say, why don't you play Churnabox? Or if you play Robin Hood maybe in Emerald, I would say, well, why aren't you playing Cursed Merfolk? That's not quite the same. But here, Sapphire Steel, the most glaring weakness of this deck is the 1-cost slot. So I think the Robin Hood becomes significantly more reasonable as a result. Beast and Doc are the card draw tools. I think this deck looks really solid. I think that people are really underestimating Sapphire Steel in this style. I would also play Alice. I think this looks like a really solid setup. I'm quite impressed by the build, actually. And now in third place, we have a Diggy Diggy Hole with Daisy and Rapunzel. That's like a big advantage that this deck has over the Sapphire Steel. Your 1-cost characters here are pretty terrible, and in here they're pretty incredible because you get Cindy and Daisy. Daisy really strong, of course, with Rapunzel. I do think that the Jafar is also quite interesting with Daisy in these decks. Like we saw it in one of the lists earlier, which can give Challenger 2 to Daisy. Suddenly you've got a 3/4 Daisy, which can be healed by Rapunzel. Helga Sinclair, which is in the thumbnail, is seeing quite a lot of meta play as it's a really good answer to Diablo because it's a 3/4 with evasive in your own turn. But obviously it does come at a big cost of being Inkable. There's 3 Smash, which is a tech card for Ursula Deceiver of all the 3-cost Ursula. The Prince is in there, which is not something you see every day, but it is a card I quite like. The 7 Dwarfs Mine and big old Gantu, which you guys know me. I do love a bit of Gantu. I would be tempted to try and probably squeeze in a Gantu myself here. I probably wouldn't even bother with Robin Hood. I'd just play the big fat Gantu. The other 1-cost cards you've got available, Happy's like pretty reasonable because of the 7 Dwarfs Mine and also being a Diablo answer. Like the others do kind of suck, but there's like the Sticky Mickey, like the 1/2 Mickey card's not completely terrible. Basil has support. It's like a 2/1 with support. I'm not really sure I like that card either, but yeah, that's the big weakness of this deck. Without doubt. Maybe you could even look at playing like some 1-cost locations, but I actually don't think there's any good 1-cost locations in Steel Sapphire either. So that's like this. That's what puts me off this deck. It's like an aggro style deck which has bad turn 1. But Happy's good. Happy is definitely good. That's for sure. I do like Happy quite a bit. But yeah, personally, I would rather play Cindy and Daisy. And Purple Steel wins it all. This one is on Friends, Storm, Strength, and Zeus. That is a lot of songs. It's also almost on the 12 1-drop, so I'll allow it. And I really like the build here. I think the one card I don't love is the White Rose on average, but the White Rose, when you have all of these 3-cost songs, becomes a lot better. No room for the Jafar, not the Jafar, the Illusion, Jafar's Illusion, and also going for Rabbit and Zeus. I like this build a lot. This looks really, really clean. For me, I would make one simple change, which is I would put in a 4th Broom, and I'd maybe try and sneak in a couple of Maleficents. No surprises there, but I like that build. Up next, we have a 25-player tournament. There was only one deck list available from this one, though, and it is the deck winner, or the tournament winning deck, I should say, and it is a Amethyst Sapphire deck. This one is on Pain, which I definitely don't like. It's like an Olaf, basically. When you've got access to Chernobyls and you've got access to Magic Brooms, I think playing a 1-3 vanilla is a questionable decision, but I like the rest of the deck. A couple of snakes with rabbits and goats and genies and Peter Pan's Shadow. This card becomes a lot better in Blurple because you're consistently ramping on 2. Like, a lot of people are playing Peter Pan's Shadow Finder, but Peter Pan's Shadow also has Rush, and it gives your characters with Rush evasive. So suddenly you've got an evasive Fox, which is quite cool. Bell is also in this one, just 3 bells, which I don't hate. I think Popsicle's good. Library. Cuzco to deal with opponents. Locations, Elsa's in there, and Bell. Overall, pretty solid deck. Up next, we've got a 1K, 27 players. We're going to look at the top 4. Another Amethyst Steel. This one does play the Cobra. This one's on Genies and no copies of Zeus. I think if you don't play Zeus, you definitely want to have some Maleficents in there. Like, I just don't think this deck's going to be able to beat the Ruby Sapphire decks consistently enough with this current setup. Doc and Genie and Cobra is definitely an interesting approach, though. Maybe with Strength, you can just rely on pulling off a Miracle Strength to deal 5 to a Half Shark, and maybe you can get away with it. But yeah, I definitely think some Maleficents would go a long way in this particular setup. Lantern Steel Song. I love Lantern. I think it's really, really good. I think Lantern's a very, very strong card at the moment. If I was playing Amber Steel Songs of Ariel, I would without doubt test the Lantern build. It's something we saw Brennan DeCandio doing, who is now a Ravensburger game designer and also the man that popularized the Diggy Diggy Hole last set. In like set 3 and set 2, maybe even set 4, Brennan played a lot of Lanterns in Steel Song, and I think it's really, really good. A big advantage of the Lantern in this deck is that you can play Prince Naveen on 3. Miss Bianca could also come down on 3 if you have an ally on 1, although it doesn't seem like there are any allies on 1. I have a feeling that Daisy Duck might be an ally. She is. So you could, in theory, go like Daisy Duck on 1, Lantern on 2, another Daisy on 1, because that's the important thing that a lot of people overlook about Lantern, is you play Lantern and you can still play a 1-drop for that turn, right? So you could play Cindy on 1, tap the Lantern and another Cindy on 2 as well. It's very, very powerful in my opinion. I think Lantern should be something that Steel Song players seriously consider and test. Very, very interesting. Like, you can maybe argue you can fit in some more powerful top end, like this Aerial. Not sure about the Surfer Stitch. That might be a little bit optimistic. I think there's better cards than this, but it's definitely not a bad card with the Lantern, that's for sure. But overall, like the build, but particularly like the Lanterns. Another problem, though, if you go Lanterns, is like you're already wanting to include a lot of songs in a deck like this, but like Beast on 4 as well sounds really, really good, right? So there's 8, 11... 14, 17 songs, which is definitely on the lower end of things, but that's like the price you pay for fitting in some Lanterns. But I like the build a lot, I have to say. Second place, another Purple Steel deck. Amethyst Steel doing really well. This one's on Iago Cobra. It is on 4 docks. It's on 2 Helga, which I definitely don't hate, as well as a couple Fire the Cannons and some Strength. Only 3 goats, no Maleficents, no Zeus. Feel like this deck is going to lose to Ruby Sapphire again. So yeah, I'm not sure about this one. I think you just have to play Zeus and Rabbits or play Maleficent. I don't think you can get away with doing neither. And the tournament winner is Blurple. Blurple looking really, really good at the moment. Again, that Amethyst Amber deck I'm playing, very, very similar concept, because there's a lot of Amethyst battles, and having a Lantern on 2 or having a Sail on 2 or a Tipo on 2 gives you a big advantage in Genie battles. There's a lot of evasives going on. Belle is really good in Amethyst battles as well. This one's on 4 Hades, no legendary Elsa. It is on Belle and Porpsicle, and it is on Friends, but also this Arna card worth looking at. I definitely don't hate it. You can play it on 3, and when you play this character, chosen opposing character can't ready at the start of their next turn. It gives you a nice little bit of tempo in the early game. Pretty interesting card. Little bit lackluster in stats, but support is an underrated keyword, and I definitely don't hate this Arna card at all. I think there's probably better cards. I could probably rather play like the Peter Pan Shadow, probably rather play like an Iago maybe, but it's definitely not bad, and it is something I've also been considering in my list. So big congratulations to Etienne for a very cool Sapphire and Amethyst deck. Another tournament and another Amber Ruby in the top 4. This one's only a 20-player tournament though, but still, this one is on Mufasa. This one's on Surface Itch. It's on Maleficent. It's definitely built to try and high roll the Mufasa. It's on only 3 Gaston, but the Raya combo is also in there as well. This looks like a solid setup. I do quite like the setup. I think Gaston, Doc, like, you need to be able to ramp in these decks. I even consider playing Lantern in these decks myself personally. Like, I don't hate it. Like, I do like Lantern a lot, but obviously with Mufasa there's a lot of anti-synergy there. Gaston is great. Really, really good card. Definitely the key for these decks in my opinion. In third place we have Steve, who is playing an Emerald and Steel deck. The tricky thing with Emerald Steel is finding the balance between discard and removal and questing power. It's very, very difficult to get that balance. I think Morph is a good call if you're playing Diablo personally. You can go like Morph on 2, Pete on 3, shift Diablo, and then you can't be brawled, for example, with your Diablo. I think Cove is important. I would probably want to play 3. I would even consider 4 Coves. I'd probably personally rather play 4 Coves rather than 2. But again, it's hard to fit everything in. It's just a Peter Pan Shadow Finder meta where your Diablo is being preyed upon. But if you can get that Cove down, that can really, really flip the script. Another Emerald Steel in second place. Looks like it might be the exact same list. Looks like these players prepped together. It is the exact same list. And the deck that took them down then, Amethyst Steel with this Helga Sinclair. This one is on all of the 1-drops. That's a good start. This one's on 4 Rabbits and 3 Zeus, which I think is reasonable. Only 2 Elsa. Yeah, the thing I don't like about this one, because there's often something I don't like about every deck, right? Apparently. But I think it's good to share my opinion. I do, I'm not always right. But the thing I don't like about this one is like Rabbit and Genie. I think you just have to pick your poison again. If you're going to end up with so many hands in this deck here, where you're going to have both Rabbit and Genie in hand, and it's not until you're at 8 ink that you can play 2 of them at once. 8 uninkable 4-cost characters is too many. That is just a fact. Like, I think that's just an objective fact. I mean, it's obviously not. It's a subjective opinion, but it's an objectively subjective opinion or something like that. I don't know. Like when I was casting the finals of DKP versus Ruby Amethyst, a huge issue that the Ruby Amethyst player ran into was just like these 4-cost uninkables just being stuck in hand. You just can't play multiple until it's too late. You just get tempoed out too easily. So as good as Genie is, I think you just got to pick your poison. I would much rather see this Genie count reduced and more Elsas played, for example. If you do that, I think I like the list a heck of a lot more. Might be the last tournament we're looking at, and this one is a 53-player tournament, so saving the biggest tournament until last. And in the top 4, we have another Blurple deck. This one's on Finders Keepers. It's also on Belle with the Porpsicle. Yeah, unfortunately, when you're trying to squeeze in as much top end as this, you do sacrifice the 1-drops, which you guys know me. I love the 1-drops. Worth noting, in a similar way to Lantern, if you play Sail on 2, you can also play a 1-drop on 2. So I think to just play this few 1-drops is really... I can't support it. I would play all 12 of the 1-drops in this deck, and you just have to find a way to make it work. It's easier said than done, of course it is. It's on Scrooge and Genie. Again, it's 8 uninkables at the 4-cost slot, but to this deck's credit, it's different because you can play a 4-cost character on 3 and you're ramping, so you can get to that 8 ink mark much sooner. So I think you can get away with it. Scrooge McDuck is really good in these decks. It's probably the way I would go about building it as well. Belle is great. Cusco's interesting as well. Overall, I think Blurple's very, very well positioned. Third place, we have a Ruby Sapphire with Vitalosphere, perhaps inspired by Zan. Merlin's Carpet Bag, which I've roasted on the channel before, and someone tweeted at me saying, oh no, not the Speci roasting Merlin's Carpet Bag, but I'm going to roast it again. 5-cost uninkable item. Exert and pay 1 to return an item card from your discard to your hand. Absolutely not. Not a chance you'll catch me playing this card in 1 million years. If you get it down, is it good? Sure. I guess in fairness, okay, I'm going to take it back a little bit because things have changed since I last roasted this card. And what's changed is Tamatoa happy as a clam. You can play it for free with Tamatoa. So I can see it a little bit. Fair enough. There's some Tamatoa synergy, so it's a lot better now than it was in the previous set. What do you guys think about that? Is that genius, or I feel like it might be okay? The more I look at it, I don't hate it. I would not play 2, but as a one-off, you might just about be able to get away with it. The problem is if you have, like, if you mulligan, obviously you're not going to keep it in your opening hand, but imagine you mulligan and then draw into this. Oof, you're going to feel really sad. Also an ice block in there, which is interesting. Only 3 vision. Feels a bit wrong to me, but there we go. Second place, another Blurple deck. It is truly the weekend of Blurple. Bufasa, the Blue Fasa is in this one. Gaston is a great card, I think. No 1-drops, I can't support. The Amethyst 1-drops are so good. They're so good. I just would play them. I know that they're 1-drops, but these Amethyst 1-drops should not be evaluated in the same way as any other 1-drop because they are very, very good in the late game. If you have 7 ink, you play a Gaston and you play a 1-drop, you are very, very happy. You play Sail on 2 and you can play a 1-drop. I just think you're missing out on a little bit of the deck's potential without these 1-drops. Admittedly, if you put the 1-drops in, you have less top end, but it's a balancing act. Maybe I'm too extreme on one end where I want too many 1-drops, but I think this deck's too extreme on the other end where it doesn't have any. There's maybe some sort of middle ground, right, between both of those philosophies. Bell, in fairness, is a 1-drop, right? You can play the Porpsicle and Bell, but if you don't hit Porpsicle, like, you are not playing potentially anything apart from a Sail until turn 3, and that's, you know, I think Blurple is all about having that early game advantage, and I think not having these broken 1-drops in Amethyst is a real missed opportunity, personally. But the final deck, the winning deck of this tournament, the final deck we're going to look at is an Amber Steel. This one going for the Queen, going for Gaston and Ariel. Cool. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks again to Card Market for sponsoring the stream. I know I share my opinions on decks, guys. I'm not always right. I have a lot of opinions. Feel free to ignore them, but hopefully you guys can agree with my thought process on Amethyst deck building. My philosophy is clear. Play the 1-drops. Don't ink the 1-drops unless you absolutely have to, and try and cut other cards first. It's easier said than done. But whenever I'm looking at these lists, I always just feel like people are still sleeping on the Diablos, the Chernobyls, and the Magic Broom. Please tell me that, yeah, the Magic Broom's still in the top sellers, so I'll allow it. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a like. Cheers. Bye. I am streaming a tournament on Saturday from Stockholm, so look out for a big tournament stream on Saturday. Cheers.